Hello and welcome back to my channel. I recently uploaded a poll in which I asked to my viewers which video should I make next. Most of them voted for to expose this Islamophobe again. But at the same time my Muslim asked me to make a video on answering questions on Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. The next video will be on answering questions on Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Because most of the people voted to expose this Islamophobe again, so I am going to expose him once again. He recently uploaded a video defending the Crusaders. He wanted to show that all the fault was of Muslims. He uses a book named Defenders of the West. This book was written by an Islamophobe named Raymond Ibrahim. Who is he? He is neither a historian nor a philosopher, he is nothing. He is just an Islamophobe who wants to spread hate against Islam. And we know how the book is gonna be if it's written by an Islamophobe. He doesn't refer to a book of well-known historian but referred to a book written by an Islamophobe who is not a historian and is nothing. Now let me show you a book of a well-known historian. Simon Sebag writes a book named Jerusalem, the Biography. In this book he describes how Muslims peacefully took over Jerusalem with mutual agreement. Note that he is not a Muslims to talk in our favor. Let me tell you what he writes. He writes, the siege of Jerusalem began in late 636 and stretched into 637, though some sources believe it went on until 638. Sophronius, the patriarch of the city, was the reason that it lasted so long. He was adamant that he would only discuss terms of surrender with Umar. However, as Umar was in Medina, Khalid ibn al-Walid attempted to dupe the patriarch into believing he was the caliph, but was recognized. The fury of the patriarch at this deception forced Umar to make the arduous journey. The story of his eventual arrival is a fascinating story and feeds into the cultivation of the caliph's legend. Who is a patriarch? It's a name given to the head bishop of the Eastern Orthodox Church. During this period, there was a patriarch for 5 prominent Christian cities, including Jerusalem. When Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, arrived at the gates of the city, he left a resplendent Sophronius bewildered. Where was the fabled caliph, the great warrior? Encrusted in gold and fanned by 2 men, the patriarch peered across the desert, expecting a wondrous and fearsome sight, only to be greeted by a servant leading a camel. The servant, dressed in the clothes of a poor man, turned out to be Umar. Rather than looting the city, Umar oversaw a peaceful transition, saying that all Byzantine politicians could leave with all that they could carry. He walked through the city with Sophronius, who assumed that Umar would like to use the Church of the Holy Sepulchre to say a prayer. However, Umar, may Allah mercy be upon him, declined, allowing the Christians to keep their church for their religion. When he came to the Temple Mount, he saw that it had become a landfill site to punish the Jews. The Byzantine forces had killed almost all the city's Jews in the wars with the Persian Sassanids and dumped rubbish on their holy site. Umar calmly began clearing the rubbish away and spoke to a Jewish Muslim convert, asking him to find 80 Jewish families to live in and diversify the city. Far from his warrior reputation, this casts Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, as a merciful leader. Even with his entrance to the city, it was clear that Umar ibn Khattab would approach the rule of Jerusalem differently from the Byzantine patriarchs. The city would come to be owned by the Muslims for almost 500 years until 1099. Revolution occurred in 2 areas in particular. We know that Umar had grand plans for the Temple Mount, but his reign ended in 644 before anything could be built. With grand expansions and campaigns following the siege of Jerusalem, it was not until the Umayyad Caliphate and Caliph Abd al-Malik in around 692 that a mosque was erected on the holy site. After it was, the Muslim stamp on the city was clear. A cultural identity began to blossom across the caliphate, with much of the architecture taking inspiration from the Dome of the Rock. Just as the new temple would come to demonstrate the shift in dominance from the Byzantines to the Muslims, their unique methods of governance were something not seen before. Umar ibn Khattab promoted a culture of tolerance. He allowed Christians and Jews to continue practicing their religions, even allowing Jews to worship at Temple Mount alongside Muslims. It is important to remember that this was only on the condition that they paid jizya, a compulsory non-Muslim tax. This followed the blueprint of other conquered Byzantine territories. Non-believers still got a better deal than previously, where taxes were higher and there was no free trade. As we have already mentioned, the dual use of the Temple Mount and the new methods of governance contrasted the bloody history of Jerusalem. The methods of Umar and his successors proved more practical and long-lasting. The key point was that, ultimately, members of other faiths were able to enjoy some stability and thrive under Muslim governance. Again, these are the words of a non-Muslim. This is the truth of the incident rather than the nonsense he showed. The references are given in the description below. Anyways, if you enjoyed today's video, like, share and subscribe. I didn't show his video because that video is almost 13 minutes long. By adding the video it will become way too long. So I didn't show his video. I will meet you in the next video. Until then. Assalamualaikum.